All right, here's a quick little video for you. I just want to rant because the next person I hear complain about ticks or chiggers or having to walk through vegetation, I'm going to firmly backhand across the face, because this is what I have to walk through on a day-to-day basis down here in coastal South Carolina. This is the jungle the Spanish talk about here in the Carolinas. And I've got to deal with this stuff because it is just, I got to get about 200 feet that way to get out of this thicket so I can get back into a hayfield. And I've already come about 100 foot that way, so we're a third of the way there. And this is like this the whole way. There is no understory opening. This over here, this is extremely clear. This is borderline open by my standards. This is the kind of garbage I have to deal with. And this is really just like 2 or 3 native species. This is what our native species are like here in South Carolina. This is Yelpon holly, Ilex vomitoria, and southern wax myrtle over here, Morella cerifera. And that is that trunk and that trunk, respectively. And that is literally everything around me. There is no privet in here. This is not a privet thicket. This is a native holly thicket. This is what our coastal jungles are like when you abandon a field. This is what they turn into about 10 to 20 years later. And they are just chock full of mosquitoes. And I am deeded up like you would not believe. So yeah, quit complaining about the ticks and the chiggers. Be blessed, be thankful that you're in ticks and chiggers, because that means you're on a blessed deer trail and not having to forge your own path through this kind of stuff with nothing but a cannon and a pocket knife. Anyway, I also want to talk about this wood rat nest because I happened to stumble upon this right when I was about to film this. So here's a nice little wood rat nest. It's like a beaver den, but tiny and in the middle of the woods on a hill. So that's what this thing is. I don't see any rats, but I assume they're in there. They're very quiet. They don't make a lot of noise. But yeah, the wood rat hovel. So yeah, just all you people up there in the Northeast, or I get Texas is bad because of all the cactuses and all that stuff. But once you get over that and wear some, thick pants and a short sleeve shirt and a nice hat, you at least don't have to deal with the humidity, because it is literally 100% humidity in here in the 90s today. I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, and this is what I've got to walk through for another 200 feet. I was in a little clearing there where I could stand up. I am walking around like this. It's also deer season. Now I'm on private property where no one is hunting, so I thankfully will not be shot in the face. But I got to deal with that too, because our deer season starts August 15th and runs till the start of January, because we have a lot of deer and not enough people shooting them. We can grow deer and pine trees and mosquitoes. That's about it. Well, we can grow tomatoes too, but not through all the pine trees. Oh, good, a wetland. And then every once in a while, run into something like that, false nettle and all that stuff, and tells me I've got to turn, so looks like we're going through that. I am 6 foot and these gaps are like 2.5 foot tall. My back is gonna kill me. I'm 30. I gotta stop doing this stuff. Oh, fucking hell, I gotta get through all that. Anyway, this is the kind of trash we have to deal with in the Southeast, so be thankful for what you have up there, Thin your canopy, shoot some deer, and maybe you'll have an understory. We literally can't shoot enough deer, and even with all the deer we're shooting, we still have this kind of growth. They even eat this stuff. They eat Yelpon. I can eat Yelpon. It contains caffeine. Only native plant in North America with caffeine. Don't eat the old leaves. Anywho, I'm rambling. I think the heat stroke is getting to me. I'm dehydrated. I haven't had any water in 2 hours. Starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. And every once in a while you gotta watch out, because you're just gonna run into a sawtooth blackberry, Rubus argutus thicket. And those are never fun, because those thorns are recurved like you wouldn't believe. They all grab you at the same time, everywhere on your arm. Very pleasant. Especially fun when you're on an ATV or a lawnmower and you catch one of those things going 10 miles an hour. Oh man, out of here. Ah, positively open. I'm getting agoraphobia. Oh, salvation. Oh. Hey, deer bed. Now I'm gonna get ticks. Look at that. Whew. Lord, we survived. Now I just get to walk through all this Baha'i grass instead. All right, well, that's just a day in the life of Tom. I'm not even getting paid for this. This is volunteer work. I'm out here mapping a new park my town bought. 155 acres. Half of that property boundary is deep water waterfront with a beautiful view of the sound. I'll throw some photos up here right now, but fantastic. I'm helping them plan out trail routes. There aren't even trails cut, just some old tractor paths. But yeah, it's honestly not too bad out today. It's in the low 80s. It's real hot down there. Hell, hey, look at that. Good armadillo. Fancy. There she is, old Theseus, in my water bottle. Anywho, like I said, this is just a day in my life. This is kind of stuff I have to do on a day-to-day basis every August and July. Man, colors are starting to look funny right now. I should probably drink something. Oh, look at that. That's impressive. I locked my keys in my car. Nice. Good thing I have a spare key hidden on your car. Always hide a spare key on your car. Here's a pro tip for you other folks down here in the armpit of the South. Gatorade powder. Just keep it with you. Buy the big jug and the big, 1 gallon thing of powder and put in these little Mylar packies, and you can tell people it's Breaking Bad meth. And oh man, yeah, drinking, just sucking down a liter of ice cold water and one of these things, it puts so much life back in you. Also, I've only covered like half this property. I've been from here all the way to here. So, all right, wind. So yeah, we're standing there. I still got to do the whole north end of this. I've only been here for, God, 4 hours. So yeah, I better hurry up and do that. All right, I just feel like copying Joey Santori's style right now. I don't know, it's probably the heat stroke getting to me. But we still got the other half of this trail going. I plotted out a 3-mile trail. They want a 3.1 mile trail to do 5Ks on. You can definitely do some wiggles or make them run a lap of the parking lot, make it 5K, but I might as well go show you some Georgia Bight maritime fringe forest while we're out here. And it's an old hayfield, and practically everything you're seeing is not native, not that great, but a fair bit of natives mixed in here, especially in this spot. So all of this tall crap you're seeing out here, this is all Vacey grass. Paspalum marvellii, not native. I think it's from South America, Africa. I think it might be Africa, but grows really well out here in wet meadows. Takes over grasslands like you would not believe. And intermixed within this is a smut grass in the Sporobolus genus, and another non-native. Loves to grow in the most barren of soils. Fair bit of some natives in here. This is one of the Andropogons, the blue stems. Fair bit of that one out here. I don't quite know which one that is. Probably just brimsedge, probably Virginicus, might be splitbeard, Ternaris. Probably not splitbeard. I don't think the soil's well drained enough. Could also be bushy, or I guess, well, I forget. I think it's like coastal plain bushy blue stem or something. I don't know. It's got a new name now. It got split off of Andropogon glomeratus. Down here, a little Killinga, one of the sedges. And this is one of the, I think this is seashore dropseed. I think it might also be another Sporobolus. Could be saltgrass. I can't really tell unless they're flowering. That one always stumps me. I don't see any flowers. They're both blooming right now. One's got a little spike like a Sporobolus, and the other one's got a big old puffy thing like Timothy grass. This is one of the rushes. I think it's might be like needle rush or something. Not black needle. Oh god, I can't remember it. It's like pinhead rush or something. Anyway, it's doobly-dooed up here. This is another rush. Could be forked rush. And so this guy is native. This stuff we're seeing down in here. This whichever one it is. Some stunted sickle pod down here, Cenobtussifolia. People like to argue about whether or not that's native. I like to think it's native. Makes me sleep better at night. Some small little groundsels, Bacteris hemillifolia. And I think that's the eastern gamma grass. Forget the Latin on that one. Some cyperus growing down in here. So here is maritime fringe forest from the Georgia Bight, although we're in South Carolina. It's called the Georgia Bight, even though most of it's in South Carolina. Pretty much just a mixture of cabbage palmettos, dwarf palmettos, live oaks, southern red cedars, which is a subspecies that is particularly salt tolerant. Yaupon, of course, there's yaupon everywhere. Can't avoid the stuff. Southern wax myrtle, which I'm not seeing of any right now. Occasionally you'll get a clump of yuccas, maybe a southeastern prickly pear, a punch of miscantha. They love these old earthworks from drainage ditches. This ditch was probably dug in the 1700s, where they just took dirt, put it right here, gave you a place to walk and a place for water to go. And then down here on the fringes, you've got switchgrass, panicum virgatum, sea oxeye daisy, Berichia frutescens down here. And of course, Spartina alterniflora. I am not calling that thing Sporobolus. I have a whole rant on that. They violated the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature to name it Sporobolus. And so I think them dirty Europeans can go pack sand. I'm gonna call it Spartina. Ooh, look at that. Deer scapula. So, a whole lot of this. But a lot of time, when you get up to the higher areas where you don't quite get as much salt in the soil, you get a lot of loblolly pine. Loblolly pine is amazingly resistant to practically everything. And I hate it. The stuff that grows in the bottomlands and Congaree and stuff, that stuff's nice. I like that stuff. I'm fine with that stuff. But there's a cicada killer flying around over here too. Missed him. Nope, he's got cicadas to kill. Doing God's work. Oh yeah, here's all that wax myrtle I was talking about. It's not a particularly diverse habitat, but it is a very unique one that exists in a very narrow margin along the coast. Oh, here is some Pluchia. Forget the species, I'll doubly do it right here. It's the other one that's called groundsel. Looks a whole lot like the other groundsel, which looks nothing like the other groundsel or the other groundsel. Common names are dumb sometimes, actually most of the time. Ooh, marsh elder, Iva frutescens. Another one you see in this kind of habitat. Black needle rush, this is another one of those salt marsh species we have in spades. And it looks a whole lot like soft rush, except it's black. And it's needly. And this is the easy test to determine needle rush from soft rush, is you go like that. And if you go ow and you start bleeding, it's needle rush because this stuff is very pokey. You notice it's not bending. It is ow. It is going into my finger. So that's how you tell needle rush apart, is you just stab yourself a little bit. All right, I want to take a quick second to talk about dwarf palmetto because people have been telling me stuff with dwarf palmetto my entire life, that one of them's got strings and one don't got strings and this and that and that and the other. It's all hogwash. It's all made up. I'm going to give you the rundown on how to actually tell this thing apart from cabbage palmetto. So this is sable minor, dwarf palmetto, and we are trying to tell this apart from sable palmetto, cabbage palm. So on the dwarf palmettos, if you look, this frond is pretty much a flat plane. It's got a little bit of a depression there in the middle in this gutter coming out the tip of the petiole. But if you look, the petiole just kind of ends, just in a flat spot. There's no long running tip to that petiole that extends up into the frond itself. Frond is one big circular flat frond. And then additionally, if you look at the petiole itself, it is very narrow. It's very small. You know, it's got a hemispherical cross section. I can't do that really well one-handed, but it's like that. It's not this big, deep, wide half moon kind of shape. It's more of a half circle. And additionally, the dead giveaway that this is dwarf palmetto is the fact that it's got a flower stalk right here. I mean, that one literally just bloomed like 6 months ago. So yeah, cabbage palmetto doesn't bloom until it's like that high, like nearly 10 foot up. Dwarf palmetto blooms when it's this big. So that's a real easy way to tell them apart this time of year, is look for the you know, the actual inflorescences. But normally it's a small shape, little tiny, thin, little delicate petioles. Dwarf palmetto almost never forms a trunk, and when it does, it's not like any higher than like my ankle. Cabbage palmetto strives. It's absolute hardest to have a stem. So let me see if I can find a cabbage palmetto. There's actually not a lot of cabbage palms on this property. Nope, that's another dwarf palmetto over here. Anyway, I'll tell you when I find one. All right, just when I thought I was done, here is a cabbage palmetto for me to talk about. You see how this petiole does that, and it just keeps it going all the way up? Classic cabbage palmetto. Now, when it's really young on these older fronds, it doesn't do that so much. But you can still see the faint vestiges of it. But as soon as you start seeing this going on, and this thing coming up here and coming over the top of head height, I'm 6 foot, and this thing is probably 7 or 8 foot high. When you see that going on right here, that ain't dwarf palmetto. It's cabbage palmetto, sable palmetto. So yeah, that's how you tell the difference between those two. People tell you things about threads and whatnot. One has threads and one doesn't. They both have threads. Threads all over the place. Don't listen to that. Alrighty, here is another coastal grass I want to talk about. Ooh, this one's even perfectly in flower. This is big Spartina. Spartina sinusoides. I ain't calling it Sporobolus. Quit asking. So at a distance, people will often confuse this for Phragmites, and I get why. It looks fairly Phragmites-y. Not this stand in particular, but when you see it, you know, just on the side of the highway and stuff, it's a different color than the regular Spartina. It's much taller. It's got the same kind of inflorescence as Phragmites. The big difference is that this has that classic Spartina or Sporobolus, the drop seed, you know, seeds on the thing, very tightly held, you know, to the actual inflorescence itself. And it gets fairly big, gets up to about 10-12 foot tall, but it is very green. It's not blue-green like Phragmites is. So this is our native reed. It's not reed as in Phragmites, but our native ecosystem solution to the reed problem. And yeah, it likes to grow in these kind of brackish gutters where you're not quite getting full saltwater influence. You know, it's just enough to keep everything else out. You know, it's just got that little brackish tinge to it. That's what it really likes. And of course, we always have the invasive Chinese tallow. And oh, you gotta pull these suckers up by the root. So I hate this stuff. Some people like it because bees like it, but I don't like honeybees all that much. I think they're assholes. So hate that stuff. Pull it up whenever you can. Break the stem, and then go find a crook of a tree and just leave it there to desiccate in the air. But yeah, Chinese tallow is one of those invasive species that is just like Phragmites, that is able to tolerate the salt here and deal with the tidal influence. Really nasty stuff. Is the most impactful, most widespread tidal invasive here in the southeast. It's really doing a number down in Louisiana and all that, I hear. Not quite that bad here, but it's about the only thing we got that'll grow in an old rice impoundment. And I mean, just look at that, it's everywhere. Thing is, looks pretty, looks nice in reeds. Literally nothing eats it. It's crazy easy to grow. Pretty looking tree, pretty looking foliage. And bluebirds like it. They like to eat that wax covered seed and shit it out somewhere. And that's why we have them everywhere. Also, they float. So they'll float around and land anywhere they can and take root. Doesn't matter if it's heavy shade or full sun. They are an incredibly resistant plant. These old hand-dug drainage canals are always so pretty, in my opinion. They really give a very open forest kind of feeling with a nice close canopy that you don't find elsewhere in the southeast on account of our soils are so productive and our growing season so long that it just turns into that immediately. But these soils have been weathered for the last 300 years after being turned upside down and covered in salt and smashed into oblivion with feet. And so nothing grows on them. Oh, here we go, right up into the cradle of this live oak. Oh yeah, just look at that. It's scenic no matter where you poke your head out on this place. It's a really nice property they got. They paid way too much for it, but it was somebody else's tax money, so guess it was worth it. Well, might as well take a quick detour out here in the salt marsh. So this is the high salt marsh. This is the short form Spartina. They've actually done some recent research and figured out that this is genetically isolated from the tall form Spartina, which is the really green stuff you can see out there past the end of that dock. So the tall form Spartina, like that, you can see over there. And this Spartina, the short form, they flower at different times, so they don't interbreed very often. And so they're not quite subspecies, but they're more or less varieties of each other. One is adapted to these really hot, anoxic, extremely salty, high marsh wallers down in here. And the other one is adapted to the very oxygen-rich, highly nutritious stream channels up here around on the edges of all of these tidal gutters and tidal creeks. And they've developed their own niches. That one will grow bigger in here when the seeds germinate, but they're not as resistive to the stresses of this environment, so they're less long-lived. This one is able to deal with the stresses by not growing as vigorously, staying small. And very interesting how they have self-stratified and separated. They are on the path to becoming separate species here, you know, probably in the next several thousand years. We're just seeing it right at its precipice, right after that split that happens that's necessary for something to become a new species, where they can no longer interbreed. That genetic isolation has occurred right here in front of us, just through them, you know, altering their own personal phenologies to not, you know, have gene flow between each other. Very interesting. Another thing I want to talk about while I'm here in the salt marsh is glasswort. So this is Salicornia virginica or Sarcoconia something, perennis, one of the two. It is an incredibly confounded species. A million people have called it a million different things. This is perennial glasswort. You know, I'm gonna have to call it the common name here because I can't even quite tell you I'm correct on the Latin. I think this is Salicornia virginica. I think that's what I eventually figured out this thing is. You know, what is currently the accepted scientific name for it, but it's gone by many, many names over the years. I think there's also I think it's Sarcoconia perennis, chicken claws, but that is different. It is highly branched. This is Salicornia virginica. It's got a very high sodium content. Call it glasswort because they used to use it to make glass, for sodium glass. You can eat it, but it tastes like sodium bicarbonate. It's not great. There's another species that they call sea pickles, which is Salicornia biglovii, I think. But that one is far tastier. It doesn't grow out here though. It grows in really kind of barren salt areas. And, oh, I completely forgot. I always forget this thing when I'm thinking about plants. Is of course Spanish moss. It's not the Lowcountry without Spanish moss. So Tillandsia usneoides. It is a bromeliad, an epiphyte. It's an air plant. Just kind of hangs out and takes humidity out of the air from morning dew and from rain, absorbs it from there, and any windblown sediment, salt spray, or bits of dirt and grime and other decaying pieces of bark that slough off of trees run down this plant. They get caught on these fibers and they get absorbed through the actual foliage of this plant. So see those tiny little silvery hairs that help shield it from the sun. And if we're lucky, we might see no flowers, but here are the seed pods. It is a flowering plant. It is not a moss. So that's the seed pod itself, and this guy dehisces and blows open and sprays seed everywhere that drifts into the wind and gets caught on stuff. And we'll just walk into another one. This is Spartina patens, salt meadow cordgrass. Again, I ain't calling it Sporobolus, quit asking. And so this grows just above where black needle rush grows, kind of here in these kind of back wallers over a small little ridge. They like to get regular extreme tidal influence. They don't like salt as much, but they do like having some moisture. This stuff is super common in the Northeast, not so common down here. The deer love it. I'm gonna get all kinds of ticks walking through this thing. Yeah, oh yeah, quick another rant. If you have to use like a lighter or tweezers to pull ticks off, just stay in the house. Go play Fortnite or something. You don't belong out here. You just grab the thing with your fingers and you pull them off. Unless you got arthritis or you're missing your fingers, you don't need no damn tweezers. You're gonna cause more harm than good. You're gonna leave some of the tick behind. What you wanna do is grab the tick and pull the tick and the whole tick. Grab it with tweezers, you're gonna cut the thing in half. And that's gonna get infected and you're gonna have a bad time. Hey, look at that, free forestry tape. Score, holding roll the stuff. Perks of the job. Anyway, I think I'm coming off the property line over here, so I'm gonna swing back in. Spartina patens. It's always cool to see that down here. It's not very common here in South Carolina. It grows in a very specific kind of quasi-brackish habitat. It's like it only grows in like the king tide line, I guess is the best way to call it. It likes to be in a gutter where a heavy rainfall will drain out, but at the same time someplace that'll get a high tide. It wants just enough salt to keep competition out, but not enough that it has to deal with getting rid of all that salt. Did I mention we have a lot of mosquitoes here? I don't think I did. What do we do? No, they're hungry right now. We got like 16 inches of rain from Hurricane Debbie. So the old wet Debster came through and everything's a bit soggy right now. I'm honestly amazed at how dry it is today. I mean, this is a very low property. I think the highest point on it's like 11 foot above sea level. Most of it is an average of 7. So the fact that it's not wetter It's honestly surprising. It's just in the bottoms. Everything has drained down. That's the upside of these sandy coastal plain soils is the water does go down. But when it finds a place it wants to stay, it stays. So even though this thing is just brimming with mosquito fish down there, they ain't ate all of them. They can't get to every single crack and crevice, but they're doing God's work. Yeah, I was going to talk about the spiders, but there's surprisingly, as I walk into a spider web, not all that many spiders out. This is a spider season down here in coastal South Carolina. And usually I am on about spider number 20 now, having been consumed. It's spider season. There he is. Spiny-backed orb weaver. Our smallest, well, not quite smallest, one of our smaller orb weavers. Makes a very big web for how small it is. He's up there with the best of them as far as web size. Probably bigger than the black and yellow argiope. You know, nothing holds a candle to golden thread orb weaver, but still, nonetheless, big web for a tiny spider, and a real easy one to pick out. And at some point, I'm going to run into the golden thread here that I can show you. They've been surprisingly scarce this year. Usually, you eat a whole bunch just trying to walk 5 foot into the woods. They haven't been so bad. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Well, I'm thinking I'm about done with this property. I'm gonna go walk the rest of these hay fields. But done bushwhacking, I could get as far as I could get. All the low spots I thought were gonna be low were lower than I thought they were. And a lot of the low spots I thought were gonna be impenetrable weren't that bad at all. So, just difference between the tidal habitats, these woodland habitats, these ditches and clay-lined depressions. Old water like you wouldn't believe, but these tidal canals shed it faster than you can blink. Of course, that means storm surge comes up in them faster than you can blink, but at the very least, the stormwater gets out. Goopy. I don't think I'm going to plagiarize crime pays, but botany doesn't too much in the future, if at all. I just felt like doing it, probably because of the heat stroke. But if you like this kind of stuff, let me know. Leave a little comment down there in the doobly-doo, like the video, and if you want to learn more about the flora and fauna of the South Carolina Lowcountry, you gotta subscribe, so smash that gray button down there. Until next time, I'm out.